years ago today, Donald Trump followed up months of knowingly lying to his most devoted supporters and followers about the election that he knew that he'd lost by inspiring them to violently attack the Capitol while his allies in Congress pushed a plan to replace the lawfully selected electors with frauds. All of this, each prong of it was an attempt to reject the will of the voters and steal the 2020 election. That is the truth of what January 6th was and is and will be the truth of January 6th until the end of time, at least from my point of view. There has been a large-scale effort going on for years now, basically from the origin of January 6th, to make it something else. Whatever else, just not what it is. Something better, something more helpful for the right, for American fascism. And that continues because Donald Trump will soon be certified as the winner of the 2024 election. I don't expect that the Democrats will try to steal the election. That's more of a right-wing thing. On January 6th, 5 people ended up dying. Many were injured, including 174 cops, the sort of thing that normally would bother the right. In this case, they don't care about it. The cops that died, the cops that were injured for the rest of their life. This morning, Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. That's a photo from his rally where he told them to go to the Capitol, and they did, and they sacked it, and they destroyed stuff, and they pooped on stuff, and they tried to beat cops to death with their bare hands and with 2x4s and with flagpoles. And that day is a national tragedy. It's a national shame. It's one of the lowlights of our entire time as a nation, as a society, as a people. And Donald Trump just posted an image of it because it's a good day in his mind. I mean, after all, he won re-election. And so clearly his attempt to redefine what January 6th has been succeeding to some extent. It will continue because in just about 2 weeks, he has promised that he is going to pardon the people who sacked the Capitol, who tried to help him steal the election. There's every reason to believe that he both can and will do that. Now, of course, he's not the only person that participated in this willful lie about what January 6th was. One of, I think the most shameful acts of intentional, malicious, disgusting political propaganda in the history of our country was Tucker Carlson, back when he was on TV, got access to a bunch of the tapes. And so he went through the, hundreds of thousands of hours of tape from the variety of sources. And he found some video where people weren't being killed or injured, stuff wasn't being destroyed. He decided that's what it'll be. And he said that it showed mostly peaceful chaos. A small percentage of the rioters were hooligans. They were just hooligans. They committed vandalism. Most were orderly and meek. And he equated them with sightseers. Oh, far beyond trying to attack the Capitol, they clearly revered the Capitol. And so I just would love to know the arithmetic on this. So let's say someone on our side was to want to take down the government and they got, let's say 20 to 50 armed operatives. Okay, that's obviously bad, but it won't be bad once they're surrounded by how many additional people that don't have guns? Do we have to have 100 people that are just peaceful and meek? Do we have to have 1,000 people? Could it be 5,000? And then it doesn't matter what the other people did because there's a bunch of people, and I'll take footage. We'll have camera footage of the meek people who revere everything that's going on, and then other people will be killing people and trying to overturn the results of the election. So that will be cool, right? I just need to know a number, Tucker Carlson. Is it 200? Is it 500? Is it 5,000? Okay, I'm just curious at this point. And so anyways, obviously the idea that he would be brought back into office despite having committed this, one of the most horrendous acts against America, against our government, against our society, who we are in our history, fills me with disgust. But obviously it fills the people who tried to stop the insurrection at the time. You have people like Capitol Police Sergeant Aquilio Gonell, who I actually did a podcast with at the DNC, said it feels sometimes like, what did I risk my life for? And I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I have an answer what I want to be the case for democracy, for our society. But I don't know, a lot of people don't seem to think that's worth risking your life for. It's not something valuable. It's not something to be maintained. Gladys Sicknick said, what I'm very upset about that might happen is that Donald Trump, is gonna let all these people out of jail. It's just not right. And I understand why she'd be concerned about that, because her son, Brian Sicknick, died as a result of the injuries that he sustained in that attack. She has a dead son because of what they did. Those very meek and peaceful tourists who revere the Capitol. And she's now worried that the people who killed her son will be walking free, maybe employed by the government. Maybe they'll run for Congress themselves, these great patriots who murdered her son. And so we'll get to more quotes. I apologize for going long on this, Francesca, but I feel like this day really crystallizes the grotesque place we're in as a country right now. What do you make of this day?
Yeah, go off, King. I mean, I don't care. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when this happened, I was recording a show that was completely apolitical, not related, and I got these alerts on my phone. And you can go to my Instagram and see that I was like, oh my God, I'm like watching it, and I'm like, why aren't there tanks? What's going on? And also, are we just gonna have to forget that this happened? And those words that it seemed like, were wrong, during the last few years. It seems like maybe there was intimations of holding the powerful who were responsible for this insurrection to account. Those words actually bore out. And yeah, we are now being told through a rewriting of history, through the misinformation that led to the January 6 riots in the very first place, but the same kinds of peddlers of that misinformation laundering what truly happened, to the point where, yes, we have to forget what truly happened. And to our discussions earlier about Donald Trump and how if he had ever been convicted of this, that would have absolutely turned a fair amount of the electorate off from someone who was convicted of trying to overturn an election. The fact that the justice system also under Biden was unable to do so just proves that it's not just right-wing media. It's not just Tucker Carlson. It is the so-called Democratic establishments that we put our faith in to represent us and to hold people accountable for their crimes. The same thing that locks someone up for a nonviolent drug offense or for stealing baby formula, and doesn't let them out on bail. That same system is supposed to hold specifically those who orchestrated the Charlie Kirks, man, the people, the Arizona GOP, the people who organized buses to get there. They are all implicated in this crime. And then the other thing, John, is like, if this had been Black Lives Matter protesters, if this had been Palestine protesters, there would have been, I would say, dozens of people murdered that day. There would have been actual security, and they would have been mass arrested, because let's remember, John, no one was arrested on the day. There was no way to arrest them because there was no infrastructure, obviously. And it wasn't just Donald Trump, it was also everyone else and the DC police and whatnot. There was a massive failure. So, yeah, man, it's just incredible that, like, shoe on the other foot, there would just be dozens of people dead. No one would 100%. Mourn them except for us who are like, hey, you can't just, I wouldn't have agreed with open firing on anyone. I would, however, agreed with mass arresting people and protecting Congress.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And you're right to expand the sphere of blame and culpability on this, both in advance of the event, but also definitely in the years since it. It is bad enough to let a thing like this happen. It is far worse to just, I guess, move on and learn nothing from it, do nothing truly to strengthen our system going forward. They all failed us. We had people on that day, people like the cops that I mentioned and others who they risked their life to save our system and our elected officials and all that. And we needed, and I would say deserved, a lot of other people in the days and years after that to have the same level of courage. And we didn't really. We had some who risked their career, whatever, and that's not nothing, I suppose. But they did not do what they needed to do to stop us from allowing the insurrection to eventually succeed. We delayed it by a few years, but it succeeded, okay? he got to effectively nullify the result of that election. Not on the scale, the speed that he wanted to, but it eventually happened. And our country is now filled with millions of people who believe insane, knowing lies about that. The people, and by the and they know that the Tucker Carlsons and all that are spinning an absolute fiction. Because those same exact right wingers, and I will end on this, who will be like, it was mostly peaceful. And much more importantly than that, the hooligans who did the violence, those weren't our people. The people who beat people and all that, that was Antifa. See, because the conspiracy theory is that there were these plants, government plants or CIA plants or Antifa plants or whatever, that went there and committed these acts of violence and then were arrested. And they've been posing in jail for years now as right wingers, and the right knows that. They know that they're infiltrators and provocateurs, and they have been doing a vigil for them since they were locked up. These people that they say were plants and provocateurs that don't represent them, they've been doing a years-long vigil to honor them. Okay, they're revealing everything that they truly know about that day. I'm gonna read just one more quote and then we're gonna move on. I don't often really quote Joe Biden, not in terms of his rhetoric or whatever, but he wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post today. And look, I would include Joe Biden, by the way, and some of those who we deserve more out of on this issue. But he does say in the op-ed, and I'm only going to read one thing. In time, there will be Americans who didn't witness the January 6th riot firsthand, but will learn about it from footage and testimony of that day, from what is written in history books, and from the truth we pass on to our children. We cannot allow the truth to be lost. And that is 100% true. I broadcasted on the day. I remember it happening, us getting the updates as we're doing the show, okay? That will not always be true. My daughter will grow up not having experienced it. And the war to ensure the truth is on now. We've been in it for a couple of years, but we're in a new phase. And every one of us needs to make sure that people know what happened. Whether Trump eventually won or not, whether they pardoned the January 6th people or not, whether Tucker Carlson has an orgasm live on TV over the fact that fascism successfully took another step forward, it doesn't matter. Those of us who give a damn about what is true need to make sure that as many people as possible know the damn truth. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.